The tale of Chisom, the bridge between kingdoms. Long before Chisom's birth, a prophecy had been uttered by a revered oracle of Afra. It spoke of a child who would unite the divided kingdoms of Umudiala and Umuosu, breaking chains of prejudice and ushering in a golden age. However, blinded by fear of tradition and a desire to preserve their lineage, the rulers of Umudiala ignored the prophecy. The king and queen, upon the birth of an imperfect child, chose to follow the harsh dictates of custom, believing they were protecting their kingdom's purity. They abandoned the infant in the forbidden forest, where fate began weaving its extraordinary plan. The land of Afra was a realm unlike any other, a sprawling tapestry of verdant forests, sun-kissed plains and roaring rivers. It was a land of contradictions, where beauty and danger coexisted in equal measure. From the towering Nungwu trees of the forbidden forest to the shimmering waters of the Umumiri River, Afra pulsed with life and mystique, its every corner whispering secrets of the past. Afra was more than just geography. It was a soul. The winds carried the chants of ancient festivals. The earth bore the footprints of warriors and farmers alike, and the skies told stories of gods and ancestors who once walked among mortals. Its people, bound by a shared history yet divided by rigid traditions, lived under the shadow of an ancient prophecy that spoke of unity, a prophecy ignored by those too blind to see its truth. In this land, kingdoms rose and fell like waves upon the shore. Umudiala, proud and unyielding, stood as the bastion of tradition, its rulers clinging to a legacy of perceived purity. To the east lay Umuosu, a kingdom shrouded in mystery and ostracized for its ties to the ethereal Umumiri. It was said that the people of Umuosu, the Osu, carried the beauty and magic of the river spirits in their veins, a tikustuyi, beauty that both awed and terrified their neighbors. Yet, beneath the surface of Afra's divisions, a deep yearning for connection simmered. The forests between Umudiala and Umuosu were more than a barrier. They were a living entity, guarding the secrets of a destiny intertwined. It was here, in the heart of this untamed wilderness, that fate began to weave its most audacious tale, a tale of love, courage, and redemption that would reshape the destiny of Afra forever. Chisom, the prodigal architect. Chisom, now a celebrated architect whose genius knew no bounds, returned to Umudiala like a long-lost flame rekindling a fading lantern. The boy, once abandoned to the mercy of the forbidden forest, had grown into a man of towering intellect and unyielding resolve. His journey had been nothing short of extraordinary, a miraculous ascent from obscurity to renown, forged by resilience and a thirst for knowledge. When he arrived at the gates of Umudiala, the villagers could scarcely believe their eyes. He stood tall, his presence commanding, his hands carrying the wisdom of lands far beyond Afra's borders. The whispers began immediately, spreading like wildfire through the narrow, dusty streets. "Is this not the Chisom, the Akema's son, who went to abroad many years ago?" they murmured. "How does he return with such splendor, as if blessed by the gods themselves?" Chisom had spent years abroad, studying under master architects whose works transformed cities into masterpieces. He had walked the cobblestone streets of distant lands, marveled at cathedrals that kissed the sky, and traced his fingers over blueprints that shaped the future. It was there, under the patronage of missionaries who recognized his rare talent, that Chisom found the tools to turn his visions into reality. His designs were lauded not just for their ingenuity, but for their soul, structures that seemed to breathe, to speak of harmony between man and nature. When he stepped into Umudiala, his homecoming was not the triumphant return of a hero, but a quiet reckoning. The weight of his homeland's traditions pressed against him like the thick air of the forbidden forest. He saw the cracks in the grandeur of Umudiala, the stagnation of a kingdom clinging to its past. The buildings stood as symbols of an era unwilling to embrace change, their foundations trembling under the weight of prejudice and outdated customs. Chisom knew he had been brought back to Umudiala by more than mere chance. His fame had reached even the most insular corners of Afra, and his return carried the promise of transformation. Yet he also understood the resistance that awaited him, the whispers of suspicion from elders steeped in the old ways. For every admirer who praised his genius, there were those who saw him as an outsider, a man shaped by foreign lands, tainted by ideas that threatened the fragile equilibrium of traditions. One day, he was approached by emissaries from Umuosu, offering him a contract to oversee the construction of modern buildings in their kingdom. The elders of Umudiala, steeped in tradition, warned him against associating with Umuosu. "Their land is unclean for a Diala like you," they said. But Chisom was undeterred. Standing before the elders of Umudiala, he said, "I have returned not to disrupt, but to build, to rebuild, to create a kingdom where walls do not divide but unite, where roofs shelter not just the fortunate, but all who call this land home." The silence that followed was heavy with doubt. Yet beneath it lay the first stirrings of hope. Chisom's journey back to Umudiala was not merely the return of a son, but the beginning of a revolution. Called to awaken a kingdom long asleep. As he journeyed to Umuosu, Chisom encountered challenges that tested his resolve. The thick forests between the kingdoms were said to be haunted by spirits. Villagers whispered tales of strange apparitions and deadly traps. Chisom, however, met only beauty. A clear river winding through the trees, birds singing a melody of welcome, and the gentle breeze guiding him forward. When he arrived, the sight of Umuosu stunned him. The village, often maligned as primitive, was a thriving hub of creativity. Its people had cultivated arts, crafts, and technologies that blended seamlessly with nature. During his time in Umuosu, Chisom met Ulumma, an extraordinary talented woman. She was not only beautiful, but also a skilled herbalist and storyteller. Her stories carried hidden wisdom, lessons about unity, forgiveness, and the importance of seeing beyond appearances. One evening, by the glow of a fire, Ulumma shared a tale. There was once a bird with broken wings who envied the sky. Every day it watched others fly, lamenting its fate. One day it tried to leap, only to tumble. But on the ground, it found seeds and water that nourished it. With time, its wings grew strong, and it soared higher than any other bird. Chisom listened intently, recognizing the story as a reflection of his own journey and the potential for Umudiala and Umuosu to heal and rise together. Chisom fell deeply in love and decided to marry her. When he returned to Umudiala to share his plans, his mother, Ikema, reacted with shock. "Our tradition forbids you from marrying a woman from Umuosu," she exclaimed. Chisom replied with quiet resolve. "The same tradition cast me away into the forbidden forest and prohibited you from saving me, yet you defied it for love and compassion. Why then should we uphold traditions that divide us as humans? We share the same air, water, and food. It is time to challenge these barriers for a united future." Chisom completed the construction of Umudiala's new palace, a masterpiece blending modern and traditional designs. During the grand opening ceremony, which coincided with the Ofala festival, Ikema stood before the gathered crowd and revealed the truth about her son's mysterious origins. Ikema said, "My childlessness got me depressed and frustrated. One day I decided to journey to the tick-forbidden forest with a tick rope to end it. There was a tick, silent, no sounds of birds, nor any creature. As I was about to climb one ngwu tree, I heard a voice of a baby from the side under the ngwu tree crying and saying, Nena alienone nekvemadagbunemene, ebenu nitanaecherichim. It means, Mother who is climbing up, please do not fall on me here. I'm in the pot waiting for my God." Then a voice came down from heaven and said, "You're blessed with a child. Take him home." The revelation left the king and the villagers in a stunned silence. So profound it seemed the entire land of Afra held its breath. The vibrant Ofala festival, once alive with drumming and chants, came to a halt as Ikema's trembling voice pierced through the air. Her words echoed with the weight of truth long buried, stirring a storm of emotions among the crowd. For a moment no one moved. The king's face, once a mask of regal composure, crumbled into one of disbelief and shame. His crown seemed heavier now, burdened by the sins of the past. They remembered the oracle's words that a child will be born to unite the kingdoms. The king, realizing the divine hand in Chisom's journey, he said in confession's mood that he was born imperfect, and as the tradition required, we brought clay pot and wrap him with animal skin, so that he will reincarnate complete in his next world and drop him in the tick-forbidden forest. The people were shocked and surprised, but the elders exchanged uneasy glances, their hands gripping their ceremonial staffs, as if searching for stability. These were the same men who had decreed that the imperfect child must be cast away, that the forest would cleanse the lineage of its supposed stain. Now their authority wavered under the weight of Ikema's revelation. The king's voice broke the silence, trembling yet firm, his words laced with a mixture of guilt and awe. "You mean to tell us this child, this man standing before us, is the one we abandoned, the one we condemned to die? And he has returned not as a curse, but as a blessing to this kingdom." Ikema nodded, her eyes glistening with tears, her voice quivering with both pain and defiance. "Yes, Your Majesty, the very traditions we hold sacred nearly cost us our future. But the gods are merciful, for they delivered him back to us stronger, wiser, and more noble than we ever deserved." Chisom stepped forward then, his tall frame casting a shadow over the assembly. His eyes, filled with both compassion and conviction, scanned the faces of his people. The whispers grew louder now, some filled with awe, others with guilt, and a few with fear of what this revelation might mean for the kingdom. The king fell to his knees, his royal robes pooling around him like the fading remnants of his authority. "The gods have spoken," he said, his voice breaking. "We were blinded by fear and pride. Chisom, my son, forgive us. Forgive me." The villagers, seeing their king humbled, began to fall to their knees one by one, a wave of submission and repentance sweeping across the square. Tears streamed down faces young and old, as the weight of their collective guilt settled upon them. For the first time, the walls of division, both physical and emotional, seemed to crack under the sheer force of Chisom's presence. Chisom, his voice steady yet filled with emotion, addressed the crowd. He raised his hand, and silence fell over the crowd like the calm before a storm. The evening sun cast a golden glow over the scene, its rays highlighting the intricate patterns of his red and black regalia, a symbolic blend of Umudiala's royal lineage and the humility of his origins. "Brothers and sisters of Afra," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Today we stand at a crossroads. We can choose to remain prisoners of the past, bound by traditions that divide us, or we can dare to dream of a future where unity is our greatest strength." His words struck like thunder, reverberating through the hearts of his audience. The elders shifted uneasily, their ceremonial staffs tapping against the ground in subtle protest. But Chisom pressed on, his gaze unwavering. "For too long," he continued, "we have let fear and ignorance govern our lives. We have clung to customs that tell us to hate what we do not understand, to reject those who are different from us. But tell me, what has this division truly brought us? Has it made us stronger? Has it made us happier? Or has it left us poorer in spirit and weaker as a people?" The crowd murmured, a ripple of agreement spreading among them. Chisom stepped forward, his voice growing louder, his passion igniting the air. "We worship the same God, drink from the same rivers, and walk the same earth. How can we let these invisible lines, these old prejudices, keep us apart? Is the blood that flows through my veins any different from yours? Are the stars above Umudiala not the same stars that shine over Umuosu?" He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the crowd. The silence was electric, charged with the energy of change. "True courage," he said, his voice softening but losing none of its power, "is not in clinging to the past. It is in confronting our fears, in challenging the traditions that no longer serve us, and in building bridges where there were once walls. If we can trade goods across our borders, if we can work side by side in the fields, then why can we not share our hearts, our lives and our dreams?" The elders exchanged glances, their stern expressions faltering. The villagers, once hesitant, now leaned forward, drawn to his vision. Chisom raised his arms, his voice ringing out like a clarion call. Today I stand before you not as a prince of Umudiala, nor as a stranger from Umuosu, but as your brother, as your son. Let us break these chains that have held us captive for generations. Let us write a new story for Afra, a story of unity, of love, and of hope. Together, we can become a kingdom that the world will look to as a beacon of harmony and strength. Let us build a future where no child, no family, and no kingdom is cast aside. The villagers erupted into cheers, their voices a cacophony of hope and renewed faith. The drums resumed their beat, not for celebration of old traditions, but for the dawn of a new era. And as the king rose to his feet and embraced Chisom, the crowd surged forward, their chants filling the air. Ezin Jikoka, the king who brings us together. At that moment, the prophecy, long ignored and nearly forgotten, began to unfold before their very eyes. The divided hearts of Umudiala began to heal, and the unity of Afra became not just a dream but a destiny. As time goes on, months later, Chisom and Ulumma got married. Their wedding was like a dream come to life, a celebration so grand that it seemed even the heavens rejoiced. It was not just the union of two hearts, but a powerful symbol of hope for the divided kingdoms of Umudiala and Umuosu. The people, once separated by tradition and fear, now stood side by side, their laughter and songs blending like rivers, joining to form a mighty ocean. The ceremony was held under an ancient baobab tree, its roots deep in the soil of Afra, its branches stretching toward the sky. The tree was chosen for its meaning, resilience, growth, and unity. The villagers decorated it with colorful fabrics, golden lanterns, and strings of beads that shimmered in the sunlight. Ulumma, the bride, was a vision of beauty. She wore a flowing red dress designed with the heads of lions, a symbol of courage, strength, and her connection to the mystical spirits of her homeland. Her hair was adorned with golden beads and seashells, gifts from the river spirits. When she walked toward the altar, it was as if the earth itself hushed in awe, and the air filled with the sweet scent of flowers. Chisom stood waiting, dressed in the red and black regalia of Umudiala royalty, his posture proud and his face full of love. Around him were the elders, kings, and chiefs of both kingdoms, their ceremonial staffs now symbols of unity rather than division. As Ulumma approached, Chisom's heart swelled with gratitude and determination. This moment was more than a wedding. It was the start of a new era. The ceremony was unlike any ever seen in Afra. The songs of Umuosu's river spirits echoed through the air, blending with the powerful drumming and ancestral chants of Umudiala. Dancers from both kingdoms performed together, their movements telling a story of unity and love. Even the birds seemed to join the celebration, their chirping harmonizing with the music. When it came time for the vows, Chisom and Ulumma knelt before the baobab tree, their hands joined. Chisom spoke first, his voice strong and filled with emotion. Ulumma, you are the light that guides me, the wisdom that inspires me. Today, I promise to stand with you, to honor you, and to build a future where our children and our people will know love instead of hate. Ulumma's eyes glistened with tears as she replied, Chisom, you are my heart's greatest blessing. Together, we are stronger than the walls that once kept us apart. I promise to walk beside you through every storm and every sunlit day, to create a world where love is the strongest tradition of all. As they exchanged their vows, the crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising like a mighty wave. The elders poured libations at the base of the tree, blessing the couple and asking the ancestors to guide their journey. The skies seemed to answer, with the golden light of the sun breaking through the clouds, as if the gods themselves were smiling. The feast that followed was a sight to behold. Tables overflowed with dishes from both kingdoms, spicy soups, roasted meats and sweet fruits piled high. The people of Umudiala and Umuosu danced together, laughed together, and celebrated as one family. The walls of prejudice had crumbled, and in their place, bridges of friendship were built. As night fell, Chisom and Ulumma led the people in lighting lanterns, their soft glow rising into the dark sky like stars, carrying the hopes and dreams of a united Afra. The couple's love had not just brought two kingdoms together, it had inspired an entire land to believe in the power of unity. Their wedding would be remembered for generations, not just as the day Chisom and Ulumma became husband and wife, but as the day Afra began to heal. The king of Umudiala later joined his ancestors. The passing of the king of Umudiala was not merely the end of a reign. It was the closing of an era steeped in tradition, one defined by rigid hierarchies and unyielding customs. His final days were marked by introspection and a quiet reckoning with the decisions he had made and the traditions he had upheld. The once proud ruler, who had clung so tightly to the laws of his forebears, had lived long enough to witness the transformation of his kingdom, one sparked by the very child he had abandoned. As the king lay on his deathbed, surrounded by elders, priests, and his closest family, he called for Chisom. The room, heavy with the scent of burning incense and the low hum of ancestral chants, fell silent as the prince entered, his regal presence filling the space. "My son," the king said, his voice frail yet tinged with a newfound humility, "you are the light that this kingdom desperately needed, though we were too blind to see it. The gods were merciful to return you to us, even when we failed in our duty to protect you. Promise me, Chisom, that you will continue this path of unity, that you will guide Umudiala into an age where wisdom and compassion reign over fear and tradition." Chisom knelt beside his father, holding his weathered hand. "I promise, father. Your mistakes have taught us all, and your willingness to embrace change in your final days is a legacy I will honor. Rest knowing that Umudiala and all of Afra will rise as one." With a faint smile, the king breathed his last, his spirit departing to join the revered ancestors of the land. The room erupted in mournful wails, the kind reserved for the passing of a ruler. But beneath the grief lay a sense of quiet resolution. His death symbolized not just loss, but an opportunity, a passing of the torch to a new generation that would lead Afra with vision and unity. The kingdom plunged into a period of mourning, draped in the deep indigo and crimson fabrics of grief. Priests conducted elaborate rites, their voices calling upon the spirits to welcome the king into the afterlife. Masquerades danced in the streets, their movements a blend of sorrow and celebration, for they honored a man who, in his final days, had acknowledged the need for change. As tradition dictated, the throne was now to be passed to Chisom. The elders gathered in the palace to perform the coronation rites, a ceremony that symbolized not just a transfer of power, but a renewal of the kingdom's soul. Chisom, dressed in flowing white robes adorned with intricate red and gold embroidery, stood tall before the gathered crowd. The sacred Oji staff of authority was placed in his hands, and the title of Ezenjikokam, one the king who brings unity, was bestowed upon him. His first act as king was both symbolic and transformative. He decreed that the walls of Umudiala's palace, once a fortress of exclusivity, be torn down and replaced with open courtyards that welcomed all, regardless of their origins. He declared the forbidden forest a sacred space of remembrance, where the sins of the past would not be forgotten, but serve as a reminder of the kingdom's resilience and growth. Chisom's reign marked the dawn of a new era for Umudiala, one that embraced the wisdom of the past, while forging a path of inclusivity and progress. And as the people of Afra looked to their new king, they saw not just a ruler, but a bridge, a living embodiment of the unity they had once thought impossible. The king, Ezenjikoka I, began to implement reforms. He abolished the Osu caste system, oversaw the installation of the Ozo chieftaincy system in Umuosu. He encouraged inter-kingdom trade and established schools that celebrated the diverse cultures of Afra people. His wife, Queen Ulumma, played a pivotal role in healing wounds, often hosting storytelling sessions where people shared their histories and dreams. One of Chisom's first acts was to create a memorial in the forbidden forest, a stone monument engraved with the words, "Unity is not found in sameness, but in our ability to embrace differences." Years turned into decades, And the tale of Chisom and Ulumma became more than just a story. It became a legend, whispered by the winds and etched into the soul of Afra. The once divided kingdoms of Umudiala and Umuosu were now one, bound not by force or conquest, but by love, unity, and a shared vision of a brighter future. Children gathered around their elders to hear the story of the abandoned child who returned to save his people. They listened with wide eyes as they learned how Chisom, born into rejection, rose to bridge the deepest divide Afra had ever known. Ulumma, too, became a symbol of wisdom and strength, her teachings of compassion and forgiveness shaping the hearts of many. In schools built by Chisom's reforms, students recited his words, "Unity is not found in sameness, but in our ability to embrace differences." Those words, carved into the great memorial stone in the Forbidden Forest, became a guiding light for generations. The forest, once feared, was now a sacred place of reflection, where families came to remember the past and find strength for the future. The kingdoms thrived under the leadership of Chisom, known far and wide as Njikoka I, the king who brings unity. Trade flourished, arts blossomed, and the people of Afra celebrated their diverse cultures with pride. Festivals were no longer confined to single villages. They were grand events where the songs of Umuosu mixed with the dances of Umudiala, creating a harmony that was uniquely Afra. Queen Ulumma, beloved by all, often held storytelling nights, where people of all ages came to share their dreams and experiences. Her gentle guidance healed old wounds, and her tales of courage and love inspired many to pursue paths of kindness and understanding. As the years passed, the legend of Chisom and Ulumma spread beyond Afra's borders. Travelers from distant lands came to see the united kingdom and learn from its story. Poets wrote songs, playwrights penned dramas, and artists painted murals that captured the essence of their journey, a journey from rejection to redemption, from division to unity. Even as Chisom and Ulumma grew old, their influence never waned. They lived to see the seeds of their love bloom into a legacy of peace, leaving Afra stronger and more united than ever before. When they finally joined the ancestors, their passing was marked not with sorrow, but with celebration. The people of Afra knew that their spirits would forever guide the land. They had transformed. Generations later, the story of Chisom and Ulumma remained a cornerstone of Afra's identity. It was more than history, it was a lesson, a reminder that even the deepest divides can be healed with courage, love, and understanding. Children dreamed of being as brave as Chisom, as wise as Ulumma, and as united as the land they left behind. And so the legend lived on, carried by the winds, told by the stars, and cherished in the hearts of all who called Afra home. Enjoy the tale, share your thoughts on the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring, timeless stories. Together, let's spread love and kindness, peace,